co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor, please notify the desk. We'd like to extend the courtesies of the House to the delegation here to celebrate Haitian Unity Day and to the members of the Haitian American community. Welcome to all of you. Senator DeFrancisco.
I understand you have a list of committee assignments that has been handed up.
The committee assignments are at the desk.
Okay.
And they shall be filed in the record.
Okay. As you all know, the Senate has paid considerable amount of money to go into the high technology business. And we're going to be calling an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332. Bring your computer, because we're not going to have paper bills, so that we could start using these more effectively. So thank you.
There is an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee. Please take your electronic tablets with you. There's an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332. Those members of the Rules Committee, please bring your tablets with you. Senate will, and then also bring them back to the chamber. The Senate will stand at ease. Order.
Please return to the reports of standing committees for a report from the Rules Committee.
We will return to reports of standing committees. There is a report of the Rules Committee before the desk, and the Secretary will read.
Senator Flanagan from the Committee on Rules reports the following bills. Senate Print 93A by Senator Gallivan, an act amending the Environmental Conservation Law. Senate 317 by Senator Laval, an act amending the Town Law. Senate 397A by Senator Gallivan, an act amending the Penal Law. Senate 421 by Senator Marcelino, an act amending the Public Health Law. Senate 424 by Senator Marcelino, an act amending the Penal Law. Senate 532 by Senator Gallivan, an act amending the Civil Service Law. Senate 736 by Senator Marcelino, an act amending the Vehicle and Traffic Law. Senate 870 by Senator Ranzenhofer, an act amending the Real Property Tax Law. Senate 871A by Senator Robach, an act to amend the Penal Law. Senate 893A by Senator Avella, an act to amend the Real Property Tax Law. Senate 1026 by Senator Little, an act to amend the Town Law. Senate 1095 by Senator Avella, an act to amend the Administrative Code of the City of New York. Senate 1293A by Senator Ranzenhofer, an act to amend the Tax Law. Senate 1295A by Senator Ranzenhofer, an act to amend the Tax Law. Senate 1440 by Senator O'Mara, an act to amend the Penal Law. Senate 1468 by Senator Golan, an act to amend the Public Authorities Law. Senate 1485 by Senator Laval, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law. Senate 1603 by Senator Bonasek, an act to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 1736 by Senator Carlucci, an act to amend the Real Property Tax Law. Senate 1798A by Senator Ritchie, an act to amend the Tax Law. Senate 1804B by Senator Marcelino, an act to amend the Tax Law. Senate 1827B by Senator Golan, an act to amend the Penal Law. Senate 1849 by Senator Marchone, an act to amend the Penal Law. Senate 1901 by Senator Bonasek, an act to amend the Criminal Procedure Law. Senate 1922 by Senator Marcelino, an act to amend the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law. Excuse me. Senate 2212A by Senator Larkin, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law. Senate 2357 by Senator Seward, an act to amend the Insurance Law. Senate 2780 by Senator O'Mara, an act to amend the Tax Law. Senate 2918 by Senator DeFrancisco, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law. Senate 2964B by Senator Orr, an act to amend the Penal Law. Senate 2975 by Senator Orr, an act to amend the Penal Law. Senate 2977 by Senator Funke, an act to amend the Penal Law. Senate 3025 by Senator Larkin, an act to amend the Environmental Conservation Law. Senate 3154 by Senator Stavisky, an act to amend the Criminal Procedure Law. Senate 3162 by Senator Stavisky, an act to amend the Criminal Procedure Law. Senate 3239A by Senator Golan, an act to amend the Penal Law. Senate 3345A by Senator DeFrancisco, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law. Senate 3505A by Senator Young, an act to authorize. Senate 3517B by Senator Marcelino, an act amending environmental conservation law. Senate 4038 by Senator Seward, an act amending environmental conservation law. Senate 4242 by Senator O'Mara, an act amending environmental conservation law. Senate 4260 by Senator Revelle, an act amending penal law. Senate 4317A by Senator Little, an act amending civil service law. Senate 4351 by Senator Hamilton, an act amending penal law. Senate 4376A by Senator Martins, an act amending tax law. Senate 4487A by Senator Bonasic, an act authorize. Senate 4722 by Senator Young, an act amending mental hygiene law. Senate 4900A by Senator Seward, an act amending penal law. Senate 4986 by Senator Martins, an act amending tax law. Senate 5308 by Senator Marcelino, an act amending tax law. Senate 5396 by Senator Hannan, an act amending penal law. Senate 5514 by Senator Revelle, an act to authorize. Senate 5757B by Senator Murphy, an act amending vehicle and traffic law. Senate 5774 by Senator Murphy, an act to require. Senate 5794 by Senator O'Mara, an act amending transportation law. Senate 5849 by Senator Golan, an act to amend the penal law. Senate 5888 by Senator Ort, an act to amend the penal law. Senate 5907 by Senator Hannan, an act to amend the public health law. Senate 5947 by Senator Marchone, an act to amend the penal law. Senate 6005 by Senator Young, an act to authorize. Senate 6562 by Senator Seward, an act to amend the insurance law. Senate 6745 by Senator Venditto, an act to amend the vehicle and traffic law. Senate 6852 by Senator Little, an act to amend Chapter 368 of the laws of 2008. Senate 6884 by Senator Stuart Cousins, an act to amend the alcoholic beverage control law. Senate 6996 by Senator Parker, an act to amend the public health law. Senate 7039 by Senator Seward, an act to amend the insurance law. Senate 7535 by Senator Seward, an act to amend the insurance law. Senate 7536 by Senator Seward, an act to amend the insurance law. Senate 7614 by Senator Klein, an act to amend the penal law. Senate 7671 by Senator Valesky, an act to amend the Onondaga Lake Amphitheater infrastructure. Senate 7838 by Senator Serino, an act to amend the tax law. Senate 7867 by Senator Seward, an act to amend the insurance law. And Senate 7879 by Senator Roebuck, an act to amend the vehicle and traffic law. All bills reported direct to third reading.
Senator DeFrancisco.
Move to accept the report of the Rules Committee.
All in favor of accepting the Committee on Rules report signify by saying aye. Opposed, the Committee on Rules report is accepted. Senator DeFrancisco.
Would you please take up the non-controversial reading of the calendar?
We will now begin with today's active list calendar non-controversial. Secretary will read.
Calendar number 78 by Senator Carlucci, Senate Print 2198, an act to amend the public health law.
Last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Results.
In relation to calendar 78, those recorded in the negative are Senators Breslin, Comrie, Dilan, Gianaris, Hoylman, Kruger, Perkins, Rivera, Serrano, and Stavisky. Also, Senator Peralta. Ayes 48, nays 11.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 118 by Senator Ort, Senate Print 5013A, an act to amend the real property tax law.
Last section.
Section 2, this act to take effect on the 120th day.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Results.
Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator Little recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 259 by Senator Laval, Senate Print 374, an act to amend the village law.
Last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator DeFrancisco recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 282 by Senator Sereno, Senate Print 5803A, enact amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 312 by Senator Griffo, Senate Print 3618, enact amend the banking law.
Last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 120th day.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator Perkins recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 313 by Senator Griffo, Senate Print 4305, enact amend the banking law.
Last section.
Section 2, this act to take effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 379 by Senator Boyle, Senate Print 608, enact amend the penal law.
Last section.
Section 3, this act should take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Senator Squadron to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to point out that, among other things in this bill, if you have a small amount of an opiate-controlled substance, including a controlled prescription drug, and it is in your vehicle and you travel from Staten Island to Brooklyn or from Brooklyn to Manhattan, from any 2 counties, it's a felony, right there. The idea, I thought, was to focus on treatment for addicts and prevention and punishment for dealers. This mixes those up in the worst possible way, and that's why I'm a no, Mr. President.
Senator Squadron to be recorded in the negative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 379, those recorded in the negative are Senators Comrie, Gallan, Hoylman, Kruger, Persaud, Rivera, Serrano, Squadron. Also, Senator Savino. Ayes 50, nays. No,
Results.
no, I did not. Ayes 50, nays 9.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 405 by Senator Rivera, Senate Print 775A, enact amend the vehicle and traffic law.
Last section.
Section 7, this act shall take effect 1 year after it shall become law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 430 by Senator Golan, Senate Print 3365B, enact amend the penal law.
Last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. In relation to calendar 430, those recorded in the negative are Senators Comrie, Hoylman, Kruger, and Perkins. Ayes 55, nays 4.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 581 by Senator Golan, Senate Print 2691, enact amend the social services law.
Last section.
Section 4, this act to take effect on the 730th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 597 by Senator Boyle, Senate Print 5844, enacting in relation to authorizing.
I'll just refer to the section.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Ayes 58, nays 1.
597.
It's 597, Senator DeFrancisco.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 611 by Senator Marcelino, Senate Print 387A, enact amending navigation law.
Last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 637 by Senator Ranzanoff for Senate Print 6322A, enact amend the criminal procedure law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 666 by Senator Funky, Senate Print 4732, enact amend the social services law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect on the 30th.
Lay it aside.
Calendar number 678 by Senator Marchone, Senate Print 1199A, enact amend the executive law.
Last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 697 by Senator Lanza, Senate Print 4631, enact amend the Administrative Code of the City of New York.
Last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Results.
Situation of calendar 697, those recorded in the negative are Senators Delan, Gianaris, Montgomery, Perkins, Persaud, Rivera, Stavisky, and Stewart Cousins. Ayes 51, nays 8.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 797 by Senator Marchone, Senate Print 1487, enact amend the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law.
Last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 802 by Senator Martin, Senate Print 288A, enact amend the State Finance Law.
Last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the 180th day.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator Perkins recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 820 by Senator Ravello, Senate Print 1125B, enact amend the real property tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 839 by Senator Seward, Senate Print 2346, enact amend the tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect in the same date and same manner as Part A, Chapter 59, the laws of 2014.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 865 by Senator Carlucci, Senate Print 7748A, enact amendment mental hygiene law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Senator Carlucci to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank my colleagues for supporting this very important piece of legislation. We have a package of bills that are on the calendar today that go to curb the heroin and opiate abuse and addiction that we've seen rampant across our state. In fact, what this legislation will do is create a wraparound service for people once they complete treatment, that they then have 9 months of wraparound services. This is complete, comprehensive, person-centered care to help people finally rid this addiction. This could be services helping them with child care, financial services, employment services, transportation, you name it. This is the way that we can truly help people to overcome their addiction. We need to treat addiction for what it is, a disease. And unfortunately, we all have seen this recent report from the New York State Department of Health, which documents what most of us already know, that this is a crisis. In fact, the data that we have for a complete year in 2013 showed that 1,589 New Yorkers lost their lives to opiate and heroin addiction. That means that 2 people every day are dying from a heroin overdose, and another 3 people every day in New York State are dying from an opiate overdose. So this is so important. I appreciate my colleagues for supporting this legislation, and I think this legislation will make a difference and will save lives. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Carlucci to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 873 by Senator Ort, Senate Print 4001B, enact amend the Retirement Social Security Law.
Last section.
Section 3, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
Bill is passed. Senator DeFrancisco, that concludes the non-controversial reading of today's active list calendar.
May we return to motions and resolutions?
We'll return to motions and resolutions.
On page 38, I offer the following amendments to calendar 780, Senate Print 5641B by Senator Griffo, and ask that said bill retain its place on a third reading calendar.
The amendments are received and the bill shall return its place on third reading.
Could you now take up the controversial reading of the calendar?
Secretary will ring the bell. Secretary will read.
Calendar number 666 by Senator Funky, Senate Print 4732, enactment of social services law.
Senator Gianaris, why do you rise?
There's an amendment at the desk. I ask that the reading be waived and that Senator Hoylman be heard on the amendment.
Senator Gianaris, there is an amendment before the desk. Upon review of the amendment, I rule that it is not germane to the bill, is therefore out of order.
I would like to appeal the decision of the chair and ask Senator Hoylman to be heard on the appeal.
Senator Gianaris has requested an appeal of the chair. It is so ordered. I will recognize Senator Hoylman, and in accordance with Section 10, Rule 10, Section 3, the desk will designate time. Mr. Hoylman, Senator Hoylman.
Thank you, Mr. President. My amendment to this legislation is in fact germane because it maintains the same purpose as the underlying bill. The bill before the House, Mr. President, addresses the issue of child victims of sexual assault and human trafficking. In order to better help our child victims, we should instead consider my legislation that we have proposed as an amendment to this legislation. Mr. President, child sexual abuse is a widespread problem. I think it's not an overstatement to say that it's a cancer that has metastasized every level of our society, from our local schools to our churches to our little leagues, all the way up to the U.S. Capitol. I am not the first person to discover this issue. A number of my colleagues have spoken about the child sexual assault issue many times on the floor. Senator Hassel Thompson, my predecessor, State Senator Duane, Senator Lanza, of course in the Assembly, Assemblywoman Marge Markey has been a champion for over a decade, and my colleague and Democratic Conference Leader, Senator Stuart Cousins. The problem, Mr. President, is that the statute of limitations for child sexual abuse are just too short. In a word, they're broken. The amendment is germane because when you are discussing the issue of sex trafficking, the group that is most often sex trafficked, in fact, are kids. Over 100,000 kids a year in the U.S., according to the Department of Justice, are trafficked. That's also the statistic, Mr. President, in terms of the number of potential victims, survivors of child sexual abuse in New York. Over 100,000, according to the Department of Justice. That's 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys. What this bill would do, Mr. President, is threefold. The amendment would first lift the statute of limitations in instances of criminal and civil cases. Currently, Mr. President, if you don't file a case in a civil or criminal court, essentially, by the time you're 23 years old, the courthouse doors are shut. That's not fair. Secondly, it provides a retroactive window to give current survivors 1 year to file civil claims. We estimate that hundreds of potential perpetrators would be identified through such a 1-year look-back period. This has been tried successfully in other states, including California. 3, and this is so important because this is the part of the amendment that Senator Stuart Cousins and I redrafted in response to concerns from colleagues. It treats public and private institutions the same. Whether you're a public school or a church school, you would be treated fairly under this amendment, Mr. President. That's why we call it the Omnibus Child Victims Act. No institution is unfairly targeted under this amendment, Mr. President. What's important, though, is that we give survivors the chance at justice. If you're a survivor and you're dealing with an issue of having been assaulted as a child, first, let's just understand, it wasn't your fault. Secondly, can you imagine how frustrating, how upsetting you would be knowing that you have no recourse if you hadn't filed a claim by the age of 23? Instead, what the reality is that your abuser, in many instances, is scot-free, and even worse, and this should be of great concern to my colleagues, potentially still has access to kids. Unless we fix that, Mr. President, and allow current survivors an opportunity to sue retrospectively in civil court, then we will have done a great injustice to that important group of New Yorkers. we've seen in other states, Mr. President, that this has worked extremely well. We should end the hand-wringing over the fact that we think our courthouse doors will be flooded with hundreds of unproven cases that have no basis in fact. The reality is that there is not a single instance where a reviver window, a look-back window, has been instituted where a case has been filed falsely. It just doesn't happen. And I'm very confident that our judicial system is prepared to handle those cases. I also want to relay one anecdote about a constituent who came to me in terms of his own survivor story. This is a man who was very successful in his high school. He was the top of his class. He went on to an Ivy League school. He understood fully, as many survivors do, that he'd been abused only later in life. In fact, this man is approaching his 50th birthday. He could not seek out his abuser in civil or criminal court because the statute of limitations had passed. And even worse than that, in addition to his dealing with a host of personal issues caused by this abuse, drug abuse, joblessness, problems with personal relationships that are caused by this horrific crime, his abuser, Mr. President, was still teaching at the high school he attended. We can do something about that, Mr. President. We can do something about it today in this body. We can remove the statute of limitations. We can provide a one-year look-back window to allow civil claims to be filed, and we can treat public and private institutions fairly as they should be. For those reasons, Mr. President, I would strongly urge my colleagues to vote in support of overturning the chair and the issue of germaneness to the underlying bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hoylman. The vote is a procedural vote on the ruling, appealing the ruling of the chair. All in favor of overruling? A show of hands has been so requested and is so ordered. All of those in favor of overruling the ruling of the chair, please raise your hands.
Ayes 29.
The ruling of the chair stands. Senator DeFrancisco, the bill is before the House.
Yes, would you please call the roll?
Secretary will read the last section.
Section 2, the statute take effect on the 30th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 59.
The bill is passed. Senator DeFrancisco, that concludes the non-controversial reading of today's active list calendar.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business before the desk.
In that case, I move to adjourn until tomorrow, Tuesday, May 24th at 3 p.m.
On motion, the Senate will stand adjourned until Tuesday, March 24th at 3 p.m. The Senate will stand adjourned.